doing today? How to help a scared horse. This must be the most requested training that I've done in a long time. How do I help my horse who's scared? And I've worked with so many riders who have been trapped within themselves, not being able to see what is truly happening with their horses, despite the ton of effort and care and love that they're putting into the relationship. They still have an anxious horse, maybe anxious about the bit, anxious about being separated. Maybe your horse is panicking when it gets taken away from other horses, when it's alone, maybe spooking at a different place, maybe the wind. So we're going to be covering in this training today these things. First thing is the hidden problems that we're dealing with an anxious horse, right? How much is too much information and how that can actually harm the situation, how to manage an anxious horse, and how a rider gets in his or her own way. So hi, my name is Chris Adderson, and it's great to have you here with me. Please put notes for me below. Tell me where you're coming from and what it is that you think you're dealing with when you have your anxious horse. Just put it below there so I can see what you're actually dealing with and we can talk about that together. I'm happy to chat about this. And if you want to see more of my lives, if this training makes sense to you, then click the 3 dots that you see up in the corner and you'll get a drop down arrow. You could just click on that to get notified when I go live, or click the bell icon. When it fills in black, that means you will get notified. All right, so let's get into this. Please put comments, put notes for me so I can see where you are at out there. The first one that we want to talk about here is, why is your horse anxious in the first place? All right, so we are labeling our horse as anxious, right? This actually can be the start of not solving the problem, right? Because it's perpetuating the label of being anxious. Our horses may be acting in an anxious way or have behavior that's anxious, but they are not, that's not who they are. They're not an anxious horse, okay? So understanding who our horses are is very important. And I did a training on this. You can scroll through and find previous trainings, or if you want us to help you out, just put a note for me and say you want the training on who your horse is, and I'll get the link, or somebody in my team will get you the link. All right, so just put a note if you'd like us to help you with that. So understanding who our horse is very important, and then accepting who they are. So your horse might be anxious because maybe your horse is a very sensitive mare. All right. For example, once you recognize that and once you understand that, then you can address that and you can go, all right, I have a very sensitive mare. How do I deal with a very sensitive mare who happens to get anxious in this kind of a situation? So I just saw a note come in here quickly from Elaine. My horse gets anxious when out on her own. Yeah, you're not alone, Elaine. This is a very common. We see this a lot, especially if she sees another horse in the distance. Her head goes up really high and she forgets that she has a rider on her back. Okay, so we're going to address this, Elaine, very specifically here. What is happening? And let me know if I don't answer your question as we go through this training, okay? So once we understand who our horse is and we know where they're coming from, then we know how to deal with it, okay? Without labeling. Another thing that could be happening is your horse is in pain. All right. And this is a pretty serious situation because a lot of the times horses can be very stoic and we don't know that they're in pain. Maybe it's a previous injury. But what happens is these things stack up one on top of the other, right? So maybe there's some pain and maybe there's a training issue happening that the horse doesn't understand something. And then on top of that, you go out and you want to do a trail ride or you want to do a hack, and a bunch of geese fly up in the pond. Your horse already goes into that situation not having much capacity emotionally because they're dealing with some pain that's niggling and taking up space. And maybe there's a problem with worrying about the bit at the same time. And so that's another emotional thing that's happening that's taking up emotional capacity for them. And then they're out on their own, and then something triggers the whole thing to explode. So the capacity for them to handle more emotional input is what the true problem is. And that's where we really need to focus our attention on. Once you know who your horse is, and once you accept who your horse is, now we turn to the issue of how do I find out the capacity? Where is my horse's emotional capacity? All right, so it could be pain, it could be a training issue of the past that you don't know. You have to find out what that is. And those things, like I said, take a huge emotional chunk out of their total capacity to tolerate what you might be asking for. And basically what it comes down to is a lack of understanding, okay? And then what it comes down to is an emotional misunderstanding. So let me know if that makes sense to you. Put a note for me below if that makes sense to me below. Elaine says she has a low pain threshold and she's okay when I'm on the ground, not on her back. Right. Yeah, that is a huge consideration, Elaine. Exactly. There may be a different pain threshold when you're on the back than if you're in hand or you're just leading your horse somewhere. And that's a consideration that you need to take into and know how to have a process to deal with that. And I want to give you an example. I was just talking to somebody the other day, and she had rescued a horse, okay? And she was telling me that the horse just didn't want to go right. So the horse didn't want to go right, no matter what. And she had thought that this horse would be wonderful for her daughter, right? But she was having second thoughts because the horse acted up when she tried to turn right. So she looked for advice. She went to different trainers. They said, oh, well, bring your horse here for 30 days. Or she talked to somebody and they'd say, well, your horse is just trying to get away with something, right? The horse is trying to pull something over you. You just have to just tell the horse to get on with it, right? And yet this woman knew, her intuition was telling her that there was something wrong. She didn't know what it was, and she didn't know how to solve the problem, but she knew that there was something wrong. Why couldn't her horse go to the right where it could go to the left, for example? And you know what it came down to? She actually questioned that her horse was blind. And when she was looking for help, she would say, I think my horse is blind. What do you think? And they're like, no, that's absolutely not. Your horse is just trying to, get away with something. So she collected information from people. And she knew, though, as she worked with her horse, that things were getting worse. And this was upsetting her, right? She was doing what she was told to do, but she noticed it was getting worse. And here she had good intentions of rescuing this horse to hopefully be her daughter's horse. And now it was proving to be unsafe because every time she tried to go right, there was this emotional upheaval. That comes down to what we just talked about, which is that the horse was probably in pain, or there was a training issue previously that she didn't know about. And so the emotional capacity was being filled up, and the horse had to deal with those things. Perhaps the pain of the rider being on the back, going right in a direction where the horse was stiff or wasn't able or didn't know how to do what she was asking. And then the emotions started to build and build until the horse became scary. And she was not going to give the horse to her daughter. So making it all that much worse was a struggle for her, right? So she felt so stuck in that situation. And that's why she reached out to me and said to me, you know, this horse is a really sweet horse, which I could imagine. As she talked to me on the phone, I could totally imagine what she was going through and what she was saying. I've seen it so many times before. And it comes down to that this was just a misunderstanding. Emotions get involved. She was upset. The horse gets upset. And it's an emotional understanding. And this emotional misunderstanding is the situation that's not understood by her or her horse. And the second thing is that it's not integrated. All right. So then, if it's not understood and it's not integrated, it just gets left there, right? And does that help this rider to be more there or ready to help the horse when the horse needs it? No. No, it doesn't. It doesn't help the rider. When the rider is dealing with their own emotions and scared, they can't possibly be there for the horse when the horse needs them. So this rider needed support. She needs help. She needs help as a rider. She needs help with that horse to get where she wanted to go. And she needs to know what to look for, right? And that's my next point that I'm going to get into here. So before I get into that, I'm just going to look at some comments. Hi, Connie. Great to see you. I haven't seen you for a few weeks here. Hope you're doing well. And Lucy says, left alone outside, the panic of the horse can go as bad as bulldozing the fence. Okay, Lucy. So are you saying that your horse, Lucy, is outside, there's no other horses around, and or like bulldozing the fence? Why is the horse bulldozing the fence? That would be my first question. Where is the horse trying to go to, and why is there this panic? Put a note for me below, Lucy, and we'll answer that directly. Okay, so let's carry on with the next point, right? Which is too much information. And I already touched on this a little bit. And with this example of the rider that has this horse, and that she contacted trainers and they said, oh, bring your horse for 30 days, I'll solve all the problems. And yet, what she didn't and wouldn't have after that is she wouldn't know what to look for. And I talk to so many riders, and it's amazing how they just don't know what to look for. So they don't understand what the horse is saying. And therefore, if you don't know what to look for, then how can you possibly give a solution? And then if this happens for days, weeks, months, the rider's confidence gets eroded. And this doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be that way. Another example, I had another woman I was talking to, and she had told me that she had attended clinics for 10 years, 3 clinics a year for 10 years, and spent, I don't know, about $5,000 a clinic, right? By the time you get there, you pay for the lessons, you pay for the board, etc. And she still didn't know what she was looking for. It was just putting her through her paces. All right, so you need to know what you're looking for. And relating back to the question that we had earlier, and I'll look for it here again, which from Elaine. I want to go back to your question, Elaine, about the low pain threshold And also the question you had above that, which was, yeah, this one, my horse gets anxious when out on her own, right? If she sees another horse in the distance, right? Okay, so horses are just being horses. So if they're out on their own and they see another horse in the distance, and they're being a horse, which is a herd animal, and they want comfort and they want security and they need to survive, and they know that the group gives them that comfort and the security to survive, they will want to be with the other horse unless you have, and this is my next point, but I'm just going to say it quickly, unless you have the relationship and the trust in a very good, strong place. All right. So understanding that your horse just wants to be with other horses, right? That's just being a horse. You can't change that. But what you can do is you can help your relationship to be stronger, right? And us as humans, we're just being people, right? And what humans have emotions, right? We have belief systems, we have emotions, and we have objections, don't we? Right? So if as riders we are caught in that place where we get emotional because our horse is getting upset, that will stop us from actually being able to see what's going on. And this is what we do in our program. If you get a chance to work with us, this is what we do. We help you to see what you cannot see, where you are emotionally involved and attached too much so that you can't see where the problem lies and get the solution. So we help you to find yourself emotionally, how to process your emotions, and how to have a plan and a system. All right. So our job is to do that, right? Even if you're a recreational rider, our job is to be as best as we can be. And that involves processing our emotions and having the tools to do that. So now that leads me to my next point, which for Lucy, I see, and for Elaine, Lucy said, I saw it here a second ago, something about she wants to get back to the other. I believe she wants to go back with other horses. Yeah, which is the same problem Elaine is talking about. Let me know if I'm picking up on that correctly. Yeah, horses are just being horses. So the way you do that is to build trust and relationship. And I know you might be saying, oh, I've done that for 10 years. I've been working on trust and my relationship. I do this, I do that. But if you're still not making the mark, if you're still not there, there's something not working, right? Aside from that, we do need to work on this every day, right? If your horse is going to the place where they want to be with another horse, right? They've lost the connection to you. They've probably lost curiosity, right? They're not being curious. They're not being connected with you at all. And they've lost the trust in you at that moment and their environment. So how do you get these things back? That's the question. Just see another comment. Elaine says, it's been very hard to develop a good relationship with this mare. It is 1000% better than it was, but it's taken more than 2 years. If we're at home and something disturbs her, upsets her, I can quickly get her trust and get her to relax. I take her out of the stable, lead her around, and it works. Okay, good, Elaine. Those are great steps that you can do. And good for you for improving your relationship over 2 years. I can just say this, though. This is something that you need to work on every single day, especially with a very sensitive mare, which seems what you're explaining to me, Elaine. So as well as there might be something that you're missing out, right? There might, because you're too close into the situation, there might be something that you might be missing out. So how do you work on this every day? Yes, You can use another horse to help, right? You can go for walks, like you said, Elaine. Take another horse. Progressively approach and retreat to the scary situation. If you want to go out on the trail, consider your trail as being maybe 30 seconds away, right? Have a different outlook on it. Maybe you go through all the work, you saddle up and everything, you go 30 seconds and you come back. Accept that as the gift. Accept that. That is a win. Then the next day, maybe you go 45 seconds down the road and then you come back, right? So you're constantly working on this all the time. Accepting who your horse is huge, that we just mentioned as well, right? It's hard to accept that maybe you have a super sensitive horse. But once you do that, then you can get beyond it and go to the next level. And this is what we help you to do in our program as well. Other things you can do, you can like use special treats. Again, I refer back to that other training I did about what motivates your horse. You can key into those things. You can have, secret jackpots located somewhere along the trail, right, where you're walking and your horse is distracted, and you actually point your horse to the jackpot. So you're continually working on the conversation, right, where your horse is checking in with you and you're checking in with your horse and you're saying, what about this? Hey, how about if we go this way? Oh, do you want to eat some grass here? Or look, oh wow, there's a bucket full of treats over here. Always keeping the conversation and the attention on you. When you see the attention leave, maybe do some lateral work. That's great fun. You're seeing the attention of your horse leave, you do some lateral work. And this leads me to also to describe to you what we do in our program too, because one of our students was just mentioning it the other day, is that the liberty work we do in our program is different from liberty work you've seen before. The nuances and the body movement and the attunement that we help you to find in yourself transfers directly to everything that you do with your horse, so that you become closer and closer. You understand when things are starting to just ever so slightly go off, and you can take action on that. And that builds your confidence, because there's nothing more that erodes your confidence than dealing with this all the time, not having the support, and then having fear come in there. Let me know if that resonates with you. Elaine says she can be motivated by treats for sure. All right, so Elaine, get creative, right? And again, this is what we do in our program, is we help you to be creative, knowing we know your horse inside out, and we know you inside out because of the intensity and the depth that we go into in our program. So we can help you to get creative with whatever you're doing with your horse. All right. And so I wanted to ask Lucy if I addressed you, if I addressed your question, Lucy, about she wants to go to the other horses. So now you need to create the relationship between you and your horse such that she still has curiosity. You're still inspiring her. There's no pain there. The training has gaps, right? Where are they? So that all the time you're working towards the relationship where your horse says, I like being with you. I feel good when I'm with you. I understand when I'm with you. Okay? Elaine says, really helpful. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome, Elaine. Yeah. Now let's go on to the next one, which is how are you getting in your horse's way? How are you getting in your own way? All right, there it is. How are you getting in your own way? So let me know if this is you. You have an incredible deep yearning to be with your horse, right? You want to help your horse. You want to help your horse in situations. You want to enjoy each other. You want to do stuff together. You want to get results. right? Let me know if that's you. But what happens along the way is that it gets torn apart, right? And it gets torn apart by this misunderstanding that I was telling you about. It gets torn apart because horses are horses and humans are humans, right? And each of us has characteristics that we need to look at and process. If we don't, it will be an ever-ending downhill spiral. And you'll just do the same thing you've always done, and you'll get the same results you've always done. And that's how we get in our own way, right? We don't understand that there is a misunderstanding happening, and that's all it is. It's just as simple as that. It's just as simple as, how much emotional capacity does my horse have right now to go down the road and visit the neighbor, for example, right? Or where is my horse holding tension in their body? Perhaps from an injury years and years ago, and there's a compensation pattern, and my horse just can't do what I'm asking, and that pushes them over their emotional limit. How are there gaps within my horse's training? Where are they? How can I resolve them? How is my horse trying desperately to fit into the human horse world, understand us humans? And I'm not understanding what's going on. I see Lucy says, yes, I see. Okay, great, Lucy. I hope that helps to explain what's going on with your horse. So if we're not addressing these things in ourselves and in our horses, then the emotions get worked up. And that's when the problems really, that's where they arise, right? The yelling might start, maybe whacking with the whip. I'm not saying you do this, but, right, I've seen it, and you've all seen it, right? The accusations, calling your horse names. This is when the fear builds up and it all escalates. When it's just a misunderstanding. It's just an emotional event that's not being processed and understood. So if you're missing the mark on this one, right? If you've been doing this for so many years and you're still where you are, even weeks, even months, time is ticking by. We don't need to be stuck in this place, right? We can get over this. It doesn't have to be this way. So if you're looking for help to find the specific needs that your horse has, or the specific needs that you have as a rider, both mentally, emotionally, and physically, all of these things, and your horse, and you're spending way too much time, and it's like, this has got to end. It's time for change. Then you'll find a link somewhere around this video. You can copy and paste it or click on the link. Book a call with us. This is what we do. We help people to deal with their anxious horses, help them to get over fear, help them to get results, help them to feel that deep yearning to be with their horse, to love their horse, to be with the horse, to have fun, to do stuff, to go out on the ride, and not have all the stress and fear that's involved. Okay, so thanks so much for being here with me. I will see you next time. Have a great weekend. And if this makes sense for you, put notes for me below. Let me know if this is if this is helping you to address and look at the various situations with your horse being anxious and being scared, and how you can help. All right, thanks so much. Bye for now.